video games and Nintendo consoles. Hello friends and welcome back to ReddX, your source for the freshest daily Reddit content. Today we have a very special Thanksgiving treat for you. This is r/slash WeeabooTales. I've only done one episode on it previously, but it hit pretty hard. People seem to like it. There's not a lot of content being posted, but the content that is posted tends to be pretty good. So let me know what you think in the comments as we jump into this first story.
You guys want to hear my anime theory?
Oh yeah, more than anything. Y'all are getting a 2-for-1 deal. I have two stories of the same convention on the same day from two totally different people. These are pretty tame compared to other stories I read on the sub, which is why it's coming out first. But they still get a laugh or two whenever I tell them to my friends. Enjoy! I was at a local anime convention of mine back in 2016. I was 16 at the time, and I had a bit of convention experience, but this was my first fully fledged anime con, and I was really excited. I was cosplaying as a character from a basically defunct anime, so I wasn't expecting to get recognized much. Well, I was wrong. I had just walked into the convention with my partner at the time, and immediately I got bombarded with a video camera in my face. I think this guy was dressed as Deadpool? I'm not so sure. Fat Deadpool. But he recognized my character and asked me if I was
willing to do an interview.
Now, I didn't have much experience in saying no to people back then, and I genuinely don't think that this guy was trying to be a creep, but I had just walked in, I hadn't even collected my badge yet. I did agree though, and he asked me to pose for the interview right at the front door, with everyone walking in. I say interview in quotations, by the way, because this guy then proceeds to rattle off facts and synopsizes from the anime that I was cosplaying from for what felt like an eternity, without asking me a single damn question. After he talks nonstop for a few minutes, I excuse myself and walk in to collect my convention badge. The guy was nice from what I can remember, let me go without a hitch. I saw him periodically around the convention, interviewing a bunch of cosplayers, most of them women, of course. It was more awkward than anything else. I didn't feel threatened by him at all because we were right by security, but I also think that this guy had some issues with socialization. You think? Nonetheless, my partner and I proceed to walk around the convention for a few hours. By the evening, we were tired, so my ex and I sat down in the lobby at a table to rest our legs. Not even a couple of minutes of sitting down, and a guy in a cape wanders up to us and just says,
"You guys want to hear my anime theory?"
Oh God. Me and my ex-partner just look at each other, unsure of what to say. Once again, I didn't know how to say no to people at the time, so I just let out a quiet, "Yes?" This guy then proceeds to sit down with us, without asking us first, and then he goes on a 10-minute spiel about how Attack on Titan and Sword Art Online are somehow linked together, and the Titans are actually viruses in SAO. I'm not sure of the details, to be honest. I completely zoned out after he started talking, but he just kept going. I don't even know how he managed to squeeze in a breath or two in between his sentences. And after he's done, he just gets up and walks away. My ex and I are dumbfounded, stupefied, flummoxed, if you will. It felt like a fever dream. We turn back in the direction of where the guy walked off to, and we see that he's in some chick's lap, PDAing way too much, only a few feet away from us.
Whoa, okay, what the fuck?
We left shortly thereafter, wondering if any of that was actually real. Once again, I did not feel threatened by this man at all. I think it was just another case of poor socialization skills. Good for him, though, on being able to find someone. I just wish he would have toned down the grabbiness and makeout sessions while in a convention space with 1,000 people inside. TLDR. Well, this is the type of story that makes me never want to go to an anime convention. I'm into gaming conventions. Them shit's cool, but I don't know, man. It's just a different crowd, the anime crowd. Some of them can be really cool, but the ones that are awkward will not hesitate to pull you into their awkwardness, and it's just nobody wins in that case. And I think this comment sums it up quite nicely. It's truly a chicken and the egg argument. Does anime appeal to spurgs, or do spurgs seek out a niche that reinforces their poor understanding of social norms? I would argue that it's the latter, because there's a lot of people out there that watch anime and are pretty cool, but the people that are weird about it, they get really in your face while they're being weird about it. I can't sign off on any of that. If you like anime cons, you like cosplaying, that's cool, that's good for you. Go ahead, do it up, but I think especially for women, it's just super awkward. Oh. Anyways, let's jump into the next story. A forbidden romance. Local weeb pines after a filthy Frank stan. Spoiler warning, this ends poorly for everyone. As it often does. I've met two major weebs in my life. One stalked me all throughout high school trying to get me to return his advances, while the other put me on a hit list and stalked me overseas for about a year and a half. I'll save the latter for another post, which never got posted. But for now, I want to talk about Mike, the most pathetic sap I've seen since grade school, and also a grade A weeaboo. For obvious reasons, I've changed the names of everyone in this story. Mike was, and still is, definitely what you'd call a spoiled child. His parents were nice people, but they invested so much of their time looking after and cheering on the older athletic son that they kind of left Mike unchecked, occasionally placating him with video games and Nintendo consoles. When I met him in 8th grade, he really wasn't that much of a standout. He was just sort of cowering behind the guy friends that he'd made in the 1st grade and hobbled after ever since. Nothing about him screamed entitled at first, but that quickly changed when a peculiar talent of his attracted a fair amount of attention from the girls at school. See, Mike liked to impersonate characters, particularly those from shows like Pokemon, Black Butler, and Hetalia. However, it was his impression of England. Remember when Hetalia was a thing? Neither do I. They got him brownie points from all the APH fangirls in middle school, including a girl named Rebecca. APH stands for Axis Powers Hetalia, which is an anime that I've never watched, but it seems kind of cool, maybe. Anyways, I don't think Mike had ever spoken to any of the girls in our class outside of group work, but the moment that he got a hint of approval from Rebecca, his days of cowering behind the band kids were over. This guy went from using his pesky little British accent once or twice during recess to all the damn time, from social studies to PE, and I know that middle schoolers in the US are like universally cringy, but this was a whole new level. Fortunately, his reign of terror ended just as quickly as it began, since we only had about 2 months left of school. Now, I knew Rebecca personally. The two of us had been finding ways to cheat gym class ever since elementary school, and she liked to complain to me about every little injustice in the world between classes. That being said, I was the first to hear the news regarding her parents' decision to send her across the states for a year following the end of middle school. She would be back eventually. She just had to take care of her grandparents for a bit, something that she conveniently forgot to tell Mike until the last day of school. Well, Mike did not take it well. The dude was crying his eyes out. And I knew he was serious because for once he'd chosen to drop the fake-ass British accent that he'd been clinging to for weeks. He only pulled himself together when Rebecca gave him her number and promised to send him updates, whatever that meant. Whatever the case, school ended, summer came and went, and high school began. I wish I could tell you that I was able to avoid freshman Mike that year, but I wouldn't be telling you this story if things went that smoothly. He was everywhere, and as expected, he only talked to my friends and I about 3 things. 1. Hetalia. 2. Powerpuff Girls. And 3. Rebecca. Strangely enough, his crush on Rebecca progressed a lot quicker when she was gone compared to when she was actually attending our school. To Mike, Rebecca was basically the Ramona Flowers to his Scott Pilgrim, and he had to make sure that everybody knew at all times, including her. Unfortunately, Ramona seemed to be doing just fine without him over at the other end of the states, so he tried to make her jealous by bringing another girl into the mix. His wife, Hungary. Yes, you heard me right. He attempted to make this girl jealous by redirecting all of his love, attention, and Englandness towards a fictional personification of a country. What is life, dude? Jesus. At one point during the year, he'd paid an artist at a con a fair amount of money to draw him and his wife together before taking a picture and sending it to everyone, and then setting it as his background. I think by this time Rebecca realized that he was about 2 chips short of a cookie because she stopped responding to any of his texts for the remainder of the year. Good move. Over the summer, Mike managed to score himself an internet girlfriend, somehow, that wasn't drawn by Hideka's Himaruya. Like Mike, she was also married to a Hetalia character, America, and the 4, I guess, of them seem perfectly content doing whatever it is Hetalia fans seem to enjoy doing. All was peaceful, and Rebecca returned home that summer without a cinch. Well, sorta. Because Mike was dating WeeabooTales, we all kinda assumed that he had chilled out over Rebecca, and we invited him to Rebecca's house as part of like a mini reunion.
That was a mistake.
It consisted of Rebecca, myself, and my childhood friend Cecil, and boy oh boy, was it a shit show if I've ever seen one. Fresh out of the gate, and I mean like 2 seconds after stepping into Rebecca's house, Mike declared that he
Used to have feelings for her.
however, he was a
Changed man now.
and I swear you could see the life just drain from Rebecca's eyes as this sweaty, clingy little weirdo stared at her expectantly. "That's cute, but I'm ace," was her only response, which actually turned out to be pretty far from the truth, but it was effective, somewhat. See, Mike looked defeated for a good 20 seconds, but he soon resumed following her around the house like a lost puppy, asking her if she'd
Seen any good anime recently?
She said no, she didn't really watch anime anymore, but Mike kept pushing.
What about Attack on Titan, Hetalia, Fairy Tail?
No, Mike, that stuff's kind of boring.
It's not boring, it's just...
Dude, it's fucking cringy,
Even Hetalia?
Mike said in that same ear-wrenching British accent. The room went silent for a moment, and in a very calculated, petty-ass fucking move, Rebecca pulls up a stool, gestures for me and Cecil to wander over, and pulls up the Filthy Frank Weeaboo video on her phone. Without even acknowledging Mike, this chick recites every line, every quip that Francis delivers on screen with enough venom to make a rattlesnake piss itself. And Mike goes red in the face. Cecil and I half expected him to go off on Rebecca, but instead he turns on us and starts cursing at us for
Setting her up for hatred.
For context, Cecil and I had a slight history when it came to pranking Mike. The most recent prank involved us replacing his Haruhi Suzumiya DVDs with Shrek 2 the computer game, the Bee Movie, and Tusk. All masterpieces in their own right that went unappreciated. OP is a meme lord. I love it. About 3 or 4 sentences into his rant, I decided that if I was going to let someone yell at me for no apparent reason, it wasn't going to be Mike, so I yelled back. It wasn't exactly kid-friendly, but it got him to shut up, tear up, and leave the house. So all in all, I didn't feel too bad. Rebecca ended up getting a phone call from him as he bawled his eyes out, apologizing for
Being a dick.
before promising not to
Bother her again.
I, on the other hand, was excluded from this deal completely. To be continued in a later post, which, as I mentioned, never happened. I gotta feel kind of bad for poor old Mike in this one, you know? It's kind of just a story of like middle schoolers growing up into high school and growing apart. They got different interests now. Seems kind of ridiculous to me that Rebecca used to enjoy anime until she saw a Filthy Frank video.
It's time to stop.
Which I think I've seen that video and it's sort of tongue-in-cheek too, isn't it? But maybe that sort of depth is just a bit too much for a high school brain or something like that. I love me some Papa Franku, but you know, I'll still watch an anime from time to time. These things are not mutually exclusive. You can like them both at the same time and it's fine. But I guess her real intention was just to get Mike away from her, in which case it didn't work at all because he left the house and then called her on the phone. Got him. Oh, I'd like to know how this all pans out, but I think I already know. They just grow apart. Mike goes back to his little band kid clique, and nobody gives a shit about his Axis Powers Hetalia voice anymore. Then he'll get a job at Subway. Rebecca, meanwhile, she'll probably move back across the country and take care of her Gram until she gets pregnant early or something. None of this is canon, okay? I'm just making it up as we go. Anyways, I got one more story to read, and then I'm gonna get out of here. Oh, this one's a little sad, I think. Maybe even sadder than the last one. She has a baby with this Japanese that she met for the first time. Whoopsie doodle. This story is about the weirdest weeb that I've ever met in my life. I searched for a long time for a place to tell it, and I found this subreddit. So this is my first post on Reddit. This happened around 5 years ago. My student club organized a big pop culture event at my university in France. It was a weekend where we welcomed many outside visitors, and we were arranging the uni for a video game tournament, shows about mangas and animes, karaoke, music, etc. That year I was a freshman, but I was part of the organizing staff, which made me really proud. We had hundreds of visitors, and I was checking if it was all okay. Everything seemed fine except for this one young woman. She was sitting in the corridor, crying, alone. She was cosplaying as a Japanese schoolgirl, so I asked what was her problem, and she told me that her ex just broke up with her, and she had no place to stay anymore. Now, I don't know what happened to that stupid 18-year-old me, but as I had my own apartment, I asked her if I could help. This was really stupid, and I'm not sure that I would ever do such a thing again. I'm not sure what happened in my mind, honestly, but at that time I guess I just couldn't accept that I'd be letting a girl sleep on the street. I just want to be precise and point out that I was not attracted to her at all. I know it's not good to judge on a face, but she looked like a very weird person and kinda ugly. But she was very small, and overall looked inoffensive. I learned later that she was 5 years older than me. She accepted to live at my place until she found something else. A few days after the event, her ex drove to my place. I gave her my bedroom while I slept on the sofa. Oof, why? This situation was only supposed to last for a few days, but it lasted for more than a month. OP, bro, we gotta have a talk, dude. Her family was living very far in the south of France. She was supposed to contact them so they could come and take her, but she had this really bad relationship with them, and they took a long time before coming. This month with her seemed very long. She was always using some random Japanese words when speaking to anyone, and it made me cringe each and every time. Also, she had no job. Surprise. Every day she was just going to a special adult school for people who dropped out of high school when they were younger. She regretted that and wanted to pass her high school diploma. As a student, I didn't have that much money, so I asked her to pay for food at least, but her bank account was always in the red. I was giving her money every day so that she could get lunch, and at night, I was cooking for both of us. I had to explain this situation to my parents so they could lend me some more money. Jesus. I hate this already. Every night she was using her iPad to call some Japanese guy. It totally looked like her boyfriend, and I could guess why her ex kicked her out. The Japanese guy looked somewhere between 40 and 50, and yet she was deeply in love with him. They never met in real life, but they were calling every day using a camera. She learned Japanese and could speak with him easily, which was kind of impressive. Her dream was to live in Japan with him and work as a waitress in a cafe, but she had never been to Japan. She was so talkative that I pretty much knew all about her life and ambitions. Finally, after so long, her family came, and thank God she left my apartment. That's her big aspiration, to be a waitress in Japan. Aim high. To contact easily when she was living at my place, we shared our Facebook, and that's how I know what happened next. After a few months, she traveled to Japan for the first time and stayed for a few weeks at her boyfriend's place. Apparently, something wrong happened between them, surprisingly. Every day she was writing posts to explain how she was disappointed by this guy and how they were always fighting. She came back from her travel and immediately broke up with him. Months later, she was so happy because she was pregnant with a Japanese boy, as she was saying. The father was her ex in Japan, but she, for some reason, decided to keep the baby, despite her being barely able to take care of herself, apparently. Ugh. She moved out to get her own place and started to live alone with her pets. Well, that's a step in the right direction, I guess. When the kid was born, she gave him a Japanese name, Ryu. She had some other weird stories afterwards, like when she dated a very old French dude who seemed very suspicious. Many of her friends commented on her pictures, saying that this guy looked like a weirdo, but it made her upset as she was, again, deeply in love with him. Again, I know it's not good to judge on the face, but he really did look weird. We discovered later that he was also dating many, many other young girls at the time, some even underage. Oof. Recently, she started to date a Taiwanese guy living in France. He seems to take good care of the baby with her and works for the both of them because this girl still has no job. I could tell you a lot more about her, like her stories, or pets, or family, but this post already feels kind of long. I didn't know such people existed before I met her, and I can't believe it each time I see some news about her life. Well, I'm glad she met a Taiwanese guy who I guess can tolerate her behavior. Bruh, I would be out so fast. I can't believe OP let her have the bedroom. Oh yeah, your boyfriend's coming over? Just have my bedroom. Have sex in my bed. What are you doing, dude? You put them on the sofa. You are a guest in my house. Be grateful for the sofa. I'll put you on the street. You don't know me like that. I think what depresses me most about the story, though, is just like, you know, it's one thing to fetishize Japanese culture and whatever, date whoever you want. I guess that's cool, but to include a baby in all of this, to create a life based on basically nothing except a whim and hold it up like some kind of trophy when you can't take care of it yourself. She's so lucky she met that dude who's willing to step up and be a dad to a kid who isn't his. Shouts out to all the stepdads out there. Hell, I wouldn't be the father that I am if I didn't have a stepdad to show me the way. So I guess the kid will probably turn out all right, you know, but man, this woman needs help. She got major daddy issues. I mean, where do I even start with that? I'm not going to start with that. I'm going to end with that. So thank you so much for watching, friends. I definitely am excited to be creating content again. So I hope that you'll like, comment, subscribe, maybe even share, spread the word that this channel is not dead. We are growing. We are booming, and I'm so appreciative. Check out the links in the description, my other channels down there, Twitter, Discord, and of course Patreon. As always, I got to shout out my beautiful, lovely, amazing patrons: Damon Darkstar, Lady Nix, Crimson Albedo, Dot Nathan, Robert Waits, Just Austin, and Barlos Bugo. I definitely appreciate you guys so much. If you guys want me to record some custom voice lines or just hang out with me for a little bit on Sunday night, the Patreon and the Discord are both amazing ways to do that, so check it out if you're able. But anyways, friends, this has been another episode of r/WeeabooTales. I don't know how often we'll visit this subreddit. I do dig through it relatively often, but there's often not a whole lot of stuff that's worth talking about. But if I see it, I'm gonna put it right here, so stay tuned. Anyways, I hope you guys are keeping yourself safe out there, washing your hands, and overall just taking care of yourselves, you know? I hope that you'll do something that you enjoy this weekend, because you are worthy, you are loved, you're definitely worth it. So I will see you in the next one, friends, and until then, bye-bye.